My next guest is the Executive Vice President of the National Taxpayers Union, Brandon Arnold. Welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so Democrats are advising President Biden to ditch the Bidenomics thing because we either don't really know what it means when he says it, or it kind of just sucks.
Yeah, nobody likes Bidenomics. Republicans, independents, Democrats, they keep polling it. All the messages come back the same. People don't like it. It's because inflation is so high, because the economy is a mess, because people are fearful of their job security and of a recession. But Biden has it in his head that if he keeps repeating it enough, that if he keeps going out on the stump and telling union workers or everyday Americans that Bidenomics is great, that eventually they'll believe him. Problem is, it ain't working. And finally, his political advisors are telling him, maybe we need to recraft our messaging here. Maybe we need to workshop what we're trying to pitch to the American people because, again, they just aren't buying it.
Inflation has cooled a bit, but still more than double what it was when Trump was president. So it went from a ridiculous, atmospheric space, level high to like, okay, just sort of in the stratosphere. Still bad. But the Democrats' message is that wages are rising, but food prices have been up 20%. So gas prices are artificially high. But I saw a report that said we should take comfort in the fact that consumer spending shows a lot of strength, but some breakout shows that a lot of what people are running their credit card debt up for is not trivial things, discretionary spending. It's food, it's gas, in some cases it's rent or health care, that their paychecks appear to be rising, but they're offsetting inflation with credit card debt they're paying interest on.
Yeah, and this is one of the things that's most concerning about our economy right now is to see the way that average Americans are getting by. Yes, wages have increased somewhat, barely enough to keep up with inflation. But as people are encountering these higher prices, they're not using their credit cards, as you said, to go out and make these splurge purchases every once in a while. They're using them for day-to-day expenses. It's why we have a national credit card debt, an aggregate debt over $1 trillion. It's actually approaching $1.1 trillion, the highest it's ever been in this country. You couple that with the fact that the Fed, even though they haven't raised rates in the last couple meetings, has continued to raise those interest rates. Credit card debt is almost always variable interest. So when those rates do increase, people feel the pain. It becomes more and more difficult to make those monthly payments, even just paying off the minimum balance. So we're seeing credit card defaults increase, and there's no relief in sight. If this trend continues, consumer spending will necessarily fall. That's 2/3 of the economy. And guess what? We're barreling toward a recession. It is the biggest concern that I have right now when I look at the economic circumstances that we're facing.
Yeah, and Biden can't claim that the economy is doing well in the coming weeks because, we're entering the holiday season, right? So there's going to be a lot of temporary hiring and a lot of spending. But, I'm old enough to remember when there was like a stat out there that some people would take them till April to pay off the debt they ran up between Thanksgiving and New Year's. And if you're already saddled with debt, that could really ruin the Christmas shopping season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we always see people make these splurge purchases in November and December. We're in the holiday shopping season now. So like you said, we see a little boost of hiring that can increase wages. That's a positive thing. But then things do tend to snap back to where they were early next year. We still have these high interest rates. So while under normal circumstances, making those splurge purchases, those holiday purchases in those November and December, people can pay those off heading into the spring, it's going to be much more difficult if your credit card is already maxed out and if your interest rate is several points higher than where it has been in previous years. That's why I think people are heading toward a lot of hurt. We may see a suppression in overall holiday spending this year, which of course is bad for our retail sector, bad for a lot of parts of our economy. So, yeah, I wish I could be more optimistic here, but the more you look at these economic figures, the weaker jobs numbers that we saw in the last jobs report, it all adds up to a very negative picture.
first-time home buyers. I know from affirmatively furthering fair housing, a Obama-era program that's come back, they're trying to nudge people out of the idea of a single-family standalone home and into what they call multifamily economically diverse housing. We just call that apartments. And that's what they want going forward. They don't want any more building out. They want building up. But if you keep the interest rates high, most people can't afford a home.
Yeah, and what we need is more building, period. We need more supply in housing markets. It's an area that is very problematic as well because people are locked into their homes. They have low interest rates. A lot of people refinanced during the pandemic. They got 2-3% interest rates. To sell their house now, to take on a new mortgage where you'd be looking at a 7%, maybe even an 8% mortgage, obviously it's not realistic. It's not something that people want. So we don't have enough inventory out there in our housing markets. The prices are going up, interest rates are going up. If you're a first-time home buyer, forget about it. So we need to build more houses. We need to build more apartments, all of the above. Sometimes government's been getting in the way of that, of course, particularly state and local government with bad zoning laws that have made it more difficult to build. But also the federal government by raising the cost of labor through bad policies, raising the cost of goods, steel, aluminum, lumber. All of the things that we need to build homes and apartments have gotten more expensive during this presidency.
I don't see any insight. This is why they're going to run with Trump as Hitler, because they can't run with Biden is actually getting it done. I got to leave it there. Thanks for joining us.
Always a pleasure.